Thank you for being here today. My confession is that I don't think I've ever been an MC at a funeral. I can't say that any longer, but I never pastored the community church at Holly Springs either. And so thank you for being here. We walk by faith and not by sight. That's phenomenal truth that we have from the scriptures. That is, as you heard Valerie talk about a moment ago, the confidence that we have is not in ourselves but in God. Faith simply says, I'm trusting something that I cannot see. Abraham and Sarah went out to a land, Israel, that they could not see. Later on we find out it's a building whose foundation is made by God, and so they did that, and trusted God. When Preston stepped into eternity, he's no longer walking by faith. Now he's walking by sight, and the things, if you're a believer, the things that we only dream of and talk about, the things we only imagine, he actually got to see live and on stage. And so we see death as a terrible ending. God sees it as a wonderful beginning. You remember before you were born? You probably don't. Your mother had labor pains and you came into the world. You said, I don't want to be here. She was carrying you around in the gestation period of that 9 months, and then finally you're coming into the world. The food was delivered on time. The temperature was always right. You had a free ride to any place that you wanted to go. And then one night you came into the world through labor pains. And so I think we exit sometimes that way. That is, we have this great sorrow sometimes in our heart, but it's this great sorrow that God gives to us. It says it's a new beginning. It's a new opportunity for us. Just a couple thoughts, and I'll be through in just about 2 minutes. Paul said to the church at Corinth, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. If you can see the word moment in the Greek text, it looks like our English word atom. In fact, it's atoma. And so he says, in the smallest division of time, in a moment, and then in the twinkling of an eye, we'll be changed. And so that's exactly what happens to us when we pass out of this life. In a moment, faster than we could ever imagine, we'll be changed. I thought about this when Steve spoke earlier, this senior citizen that's in such a good mood. I shouldn't call him a senior citizen, but do you remember when you were 25 years of age and you could jump and the mirror would hold still? And then you turn 30 and you jumped and everything gets moved forever. Paul says, look, you have to go through a change. Corruptible puts on incorruption. Mortal puts on immortality. And then he says you're going to be changed in a moment, and then in the twinkling of an eye. My ophthalmologist tells me that the twinkling of an eye is a nanosecond, a billionth of a second, the time that it takes a light to pass from the front of the eye to the back of the eye, make an image and send it to my brain and get me down the aisle without falling all over myself. He says you're going to go through this phenomenal change. And then I thought about Preston and the fact that he's an LSU fan. If you've ever looked at the defensive line at LSU, those guys are giants. At the end of this passage, Paul says, after you understand resurrection life, after you understand that you're going to get a new body, that's exciting. I didn't think about that when I was 20 years of age, but now that I'm over 50, that starts to be exciting in some ways. And so the fact is, he says, you're going to go through this change, and as you understand this great victory that we have through Jesus Christ, he says, I want you to be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. So when you think about that line at LSU, that will hardly let anyone through on a good season. He says, look, I want you to be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. I only know just what you've told me about Preston, but it seems to me that he would want you to move forward with life. He would want you to capture what you have from him. I like what somebody said earlier. It's not the number of years that we live. Some of us are 80 years of age and we have wasted our life. Preston was 34, 35. Look at all that he accomplished. Look at all the friends that he's accumulated. One of my senior citizens in our congregation, before he passed away, he said, Vic, when I die, all you have to do is to just get up and make a few suggestions, because every day of my life I've been preaching my funeral sermon. And that's true, isn't it? Should you go first and I remain to walk this road alone, I'll live in memory's garden with the happy days we've known. In spring I'll watch the roses red while fade the lilacs blue. And in early autumn when the brown leaves fall, I'll catch a glimpse of you. Should you go first and I remain for battles to be fought, each thing that you have touched along the way will become a hallowed spot. I'll see your smile, I'll hear your voice, though blindly I may grope, and each tender thought of you will lift me on in hope. Should you go first and I remain to finish with our scroll, no lengthening shadows will creep in to make this life seem droll. We've known so much of happiness, we have had our cup of joy, and memory is one gift of God that even death cannot destroy. Should you go first? And he did. And I remain. One thing I would have you do. Walk slowly. Please walk slowly down that long lane, for soon I'll follow you. I want to know each step you take, that I may walk the same. For someday down that long lane, you'll hear all of us call your name. Could I invite you to the celebration of life? Featherstones at Bridge Mill. Could I give you the address if you have an iPhone? 1190 Bridge Mill Avenue, Canton, Georgia. Ohio. I've got to tell you, I was telling the family before, I shouldn't tell you this because you all are LSU fans. You can tell by the purple we're all wearing today. I went to the University of Michigan when dinosaurs roamed the earth. When Bo Schembechler, if you're anybody's age, Bo Schembechler, Woody Hayes was at Ohio State, and so I apologize for even bringing up Ohio State. We're ready to go, I think. Could I remind you one last thing? We talked about it today. The family needs your attention regularly. Just because we have this service, just because we have celebration this afternoon together and call up memories, occasionally you might want to remember our friends and call them and let them know you're praying for them, thinking about them, and just encouraging them. Somebody says, what do you say? You don't have to say anything. Just say, I was thinking about you and I wanted to be sure you're okay.